Hello there everybody and welcome! I got you a new build. This time it's a high culture build for dragons. And it ended up to be pretty much the best dragon build that I've made so far, and I'm really happy with the results. Starts strong, stays strong, ends strong. There's really, just like I know my good old high culture, no weakness besides the obnoxious micromanagement of awakening mechanics in battle. So, let's get started with our racial traits. I went here for Arcane Focus and Keen Sighted. This is the combination for archers and battle mages, and the high culture provides pretty good of those, pretty good troops of those. It also is needless to say, our frontliners later down the road will be dragons, so these traits will be not important for them, so I went for this package. I also selected adaptable. We are playing an evolution build, and that means we have already a lot of modifiers for people getting more experience. This adds into the whole strategy, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about why that's a very, very interesting strategy whose benefits can be easily overlooked. So, here I went for gifted casters because I personally love to have a lot of magical oomph in the beginning. I leave it up to you. I think gifted casters is very exchangeable because this is mostly a early game steroid and making sure that I can keep up with my own pace. And powerful evokers is really good as we have a lot of battle mages and supporters on the battlefield, and more spells equals more manipulation to our of the odds to or benefits, so I like that. Like I said, gifted casters is possibly one thing we could replace, as the entire uh, astral dip is not that much of a big deal, so you could really go for whatever pleases you. I found it very helpful though, because I spam a lot of spells in combat, and I think this is a very, very strong strategy. Good. Off to the tomes. We are starting out with the Tome of Evolution. This provides us with all the things that we are going to need later. First off, Wyvern fledglings are what I used for this build as a filler. These transform into tier 3 wyverns eventually, which are pretty decent units, and they might not get a specific skill from being awakened, but they still can inherit the spiritual extra damage from being awakened, and that makes them pretty strong. Youthful rejuvenation allows us to make these wyvern fledglings technically immortal. As long as we win, they will come back after the combat, which is yeah, that's pretty rough stuff and very powerful. You can round up your troops with Slither hatchlings if you want to. After all, we are really good at evolving units, but just like the wyverns, they don't have any natural synergy with awakening, but they just enjoy the extra damage just as much. We are here mostly for draconic vitality for our own troops. Our troops level up fast, so they gain HP even faster. It is a really good deal here. And Rapid Evolution Enchantment is early game powerful, and the wonderful thing is the first line of that thing is applying later to our dragons as well, so we get those tier 5ers much faster. Shepherd, I can only say this is stupidly powerful. It makes your dragons cheaper and more resilient, and, well, that gets them really good into a good shape for tier 3 units later. Also helps out your tier 1 evolvers a ton as well. Over to Pyromancy. It is a very thematically fitting thing. We have a lot of fire involved, and adds up all matter of different things that we require. A cheap and accessible battle mage that doesn't need us to build a tier 3 town hall first. A summonable battle mage that benefits from all the evolution scheme that we have running already, so you can decide for yourself if you want the ones that you can summon on the fly or train in the city. You have Fiery Arrows and Searing Blades at your disposal to increase the damage of your roster. It's a really nice deal to have Awakening and Fire damage at the same time. And Ignite and Immolate provide us nice battlefield nukers if we don't need the buffs or the heals, whatever. This is a pretty nice thing as well. The Ritual Pyre provides mana for foresters. Enough said, if you have a forest-rich environment, it's pretty good, and we can actually provide forests, because when we move to tier 2, yeah, it's Tome of Glades time. I sound so disappointed because I would love to go for something different, but I fail to find anything as good as this. It replaces our racial tier 1 archers with kick ass racial tier 3 archers. They inherit all the benefits of our culture and race, so all of a sudden we have real archers. That's the first thing. The Entwined Protectors easily replace your tier 1 shields. They can inherit all the bonuses from the high culture shields, so full-on replacement of your entire tier 1 roster in that tome, and that alone is a reason to pick it up. That would be really, in all seriousness, already enough reason, but it gets better with Aspect of the Root. Our shields and pole arms gain a self-heal ability. That is massive, you know. Your tier 2 spears are nothing to sneeze at. They are not bad. And, well, the rest is just more longevity and more hard to kill stuff. We can create forests and we gain leaf skin, more magical resistance. It's a really nice little thing. The Forest Warden is what I personally like, where you can boost up your troops if you are in forests. Since we can create forests, technically there is a synergy. Practically, I never played it because it's too finicky for my taste. Moving on over to Revelry, because Revelry provides another steroid for our experience gain. We need that for the dragon training, and before we know it, we have 50% extra experience from battles for evolvers that will be resurrected after battle if we happen to smack youthful rejuvenation on them. Yeah, it's a pretty good deal, but it gets better with the Scots, enhancing our support abilities to actually buff our damage profile. That's pretty nice. They also have a soft way of crowd controlling enemies. Blood Fury weapons, you see, it is really nice. It just doesn't buff your archers, but that doesn't come too heavily into play. And Reveler's Heart is really cool. Revels of Blood, I rarely use this. I rarely want to invest the research time, in all honesty. Reveler's Triumph, if you start critting a lot, it's always a nice thing. Pick it up on the lines if you have everything else picked up. It's a really, really nice luxury trade around level 8 to 12 for your heroes in my personal experience. Tier 3 of course, dragons. That's where we get into full motion. We get access to the young dragons, and like I said, these guys are evolving units, therefore they benefit from Shepherd, they benefit from Rapid Evolution Enchantment's experience, they can be made technically immortal with Youthful Rejuvenation, so you have hard-hitting tier 3 Kamikaze units that just won't die if you apply that spell beforehand. You can't even apply Youthful Rejuvenation before they even suffered any damage. It still puts the resurgence on them. Flame of Focus is providing your backliners with another nice little nuke. We can get a siege project that really kicks quite hard. That's a pretty nasty AoE to begin the fight with. And Purifying Flame, Status Cleanser. I always love to have Status Cleansers in my builds. And Draconian Transformation. You don't need to pick it. You can pick it. It's a good one. It provides regeneration. But this build has a lot of luxury when it comes down to major transformations. More about that in a second. We gain also the Wyvern Eyrie, which is really nice because that means we have innate access to two research post buildings that we can build wherever we want. So that means research is no problem for this build. And of course, firebombs available for heroes too. Nothing bad about that. So at that point, things get interesting. You have tons of options with this build. That really baffled me. You can go Pandemonium and enhance your battle mages to be negative status inflictors. Combine that with Chaos Eaters for a really nice burst. Vessels of Chaos would make your own frontliners. Cultural ones, though, not the dragons, hit quite hard. This package provides a lot of CC and is really good if your enemy is quite dangerous and good at hurting you if he gets to do whatever he wants. Devastation, on the other hand, can be picked up for a critical hit. Well, this is a really, really nasty steroid. It won't work on your tier 5 dragons, though. Take care, they're mythical units, so they don't get these enchantments. But everybody else does, and yeah, crit hit chance, explosions, what's not to like about that? Focus of Devastation, It's a real good thing for your battle mages and supporters, and the rest just plays into your scheme quite nicely as well. So choose whatever is fitting to your own liking. And here you can select between cycles and vigor, but I personally see vigor cycles as a really, really strong pick as well if you don't want to dive into chaos, as projectiles of decay is insanely powerful, as it goes for battle mages and archers. It's a really good one. And we gain a lot of abilities to sustain ourselves with diffuse health, parting gifts, and the druid of the cycle can even resurrect your troops. So that's also a absolutely viable path to go down. I would recommend you to go tier 4 either for chaos channeling, mostly for the fire immunity. That's just massive, you know? You have a lot of AoEs that inflict fire also to your own troops. This way you can just mostly ignore it. With that kind of fire resistance, you also take way less damage than the enemies around you. It's a pretty nice thing. And the other tier 4 that I personally really loved for this build, depending on your own preferences, Nature's Wrath, if you want to go for a draconic transformation, allows you to pick up another tier 5 unit that you can easily summon, but it's mostly interesting because of De-Evolve, Awaken Instincts, which is, yeah, what can I say? Can just do a really lot of nasty things with that. And destructive regrowth can also be really nice because nukes people on the map and provides forests. On the other hand, you can go Paradise, and that is, if you didn't pick up Draconian Transformation, provides you Gaia's Chosen, which is also a really, really good one. Exhilarating Pollen, well, more morale, more distraction, and the rest is just more resilience for your cities, which isn't bad either. You can't pick to your own liking. There's really a lot of diversity, and I'd always make it dependent on what you're facing and what your current situation is. Now, the strategy part goes like that. Early on, you will print out a couple of Dawn Defenders and Dusk Hunters because you have no other choice. But I really strongly recommend to research the Wyvern Fledgling as fast as you can and fill up your ranks rather with Wyverns than with those tier 1 Dawn Defenders and Archers, as they get replaced really fast. A few of them are a necessary evil, don't get me wrong, you will need them, but all in all, we will replace them eventually. And the good part about the Wyverns is they turn into tier 3 units, whereas your other tier 1 units won't. So, one of your first goals obviously will be to get your tier 2 town hall together and do your research thing as fast as you can so you can get pyromancers into your ranks as well. I'd strongly recommend to pick up a couple of daylight spears along the lines as well, but the sun priests are why we wanted to rush tier 2 in the first place. This build also really wants to hit tier 3 town halls as fast as possible because the Awakeners are powerhouses. They have a really good hitting ranged attack, and they have, again, an AoE nuke. This build has so many AoE nukes. You will really, really enjoy it for that quality alone. So, generally, you can just go out there and conquer whatever you want because your baseline roster is insanely strong. We have cheap spells. That means you can use Awaken Inner Radiance to awaken your starter squad pretty much instantaneously. You have Warding Blessing, which means you have also a really, really good way of healing people that are threatened to be burst down. And we also gain Youthful Rejuvenation. So basically, all in all, it's really hard to get killed with that build. My personal recommendation is to go for Wyvern and then Youthful Rejuvenation as fast as possible. Because I stated it before in the previous part with the tomes, as soon as you have these two elements running, your Wyverns are technically immortal. So you can use them as a distraction, send them into the battle, and let them tank the damage so your other units won't have to suffer through that. It doesn't matter too much if they die along the way, like die for real because you didn't manage to get a resurgence on them, because eventually you will be building those Wyvern Eyries everywhere, and these allow you to directly recruit the Wyverns, so don't stress yourself out too much if one of those dies. That is actually their purpose in this build. Here another little nice caveat about the traits that I picked up for the race. If you check out the benefits, every unit gains a lot of bonuses from just being a higher level. Namely, first and foremostly, a lot of HP and these nifty little medals. The wonderful thing about this build is your cultural units level up stupidly fast. Not only do we take a lot of effort into leveling up these guys fast, we also level up pretty much all of your cultural roster. That means these guys eventually are really, really strong. I mean, look at the Sun Priest, 105 HP in total. That is a lot. He also gained a lot of secondary traits. He gained Exalted Resistance, so he really, really has a lot of defenses going on for himself. And basically, as long as you manage to keep your troops alive, your regular cultural roster really starts to shine with alone these little metal thingies that over the course of the time really make up so many base stat increases that you will really, really notice that. Here, Exalted Defense brings Bolstered Defense, and here we have Bolstered Resistance Spreader. These Legend medals, they are stupidly powerful, and with this build, you gain them much, much faster. So what's left to say? I really guys, this, yeah, if you want to go for a war with the AI, wait until you have the Pyromancy Tome. That's the only thing that I really want to recommend. With the Evolution Tome alone, you are a little bit weak-ish, but only ish because your baseline stuff here is so darn strong. Make sure you build Sunshrines and Wyvern Eyries along the mid and late game stages, because this is where you can crank out a lot of research points. And I want to point out, since we are diving a little bit into Shadow, you also gain Knowledge Extraction and All Seeing. So that means extra Whispering Stones gain also more knowledge. And I'm emphasizing the whole knowledge shtick so much because this build is basically an arms race. It wants to have the tier 3 tome as fast as possible to get these little guys here running as quick as you can. That is what it's all about. At the end of the day, use your spells wisely. Revels of Carnage should be always on the banners where you have dragons to be leveled, but feel free to use it anywhere else. If you have the amounts of mana like I do here, for example, nothing wrong with preparing that spell and keeping one of them at your disposal for a moment when it seems fit. You can abuse the experience income with that build quite massively, and I really recommend you to do so. Of course, there's always the good old trick with the experienced leader trait. So if you have more heroes than you can possibly manage, you can always put one of them with the experienced leader trait into your backwater provinces and just passively train out troops like that. Always a possibility for any evolution build. Now, I hope you enjoyed. I have nothing more to add into this. It's a pretty straightforward and powerful build. Like I said, the most nasty downside here is just the finicky awakening micromanagement, as it only lasts 3 turns and you need to put the people together so they... I really hate Twin Awakening, as it is quite random where it aims to. You can manipulate it to some degree, but I really feel like this is your biggest glaring weakness. So, I hope you enjoyed. Leave me your comments down below. A thumbs up would be appreciated, and consider subscribing. There's also a description box down there with lots of cool links. And check out Patreon, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee, or my channel membership system. So, whatever you do or don't, I want to say a big, big thanks to all the supporters of the channel. And I want to say a big, big thanks to you. Yes, you right there, right now. You watched this video until the very end, and I appreciate it. So, have a good time, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.